Today's lesson is again on comparing text structures, but in this lesson we will look at cause and effect and compare and contrast. Let's look at our title and learning target. Read with me as I read out loud. Comparing text structures, part 2, cause effect, compare contrast. Learning target, when you compare and contrast how the information in text is structured, you will better understand the purpose of each text. Read. How is a house different from a skyscraper? They each have a different structure and purpose. Authors use different text structures for specific purposes too. The purpose of a cause-effect text structure is to tell about events and explain why they happen. Words and phrases like cause, effect, because, and as a result are sometimes used in a cause-effect structure. The purpose of a compare-contrast text structure is to describe how two or more things are similar and different. A compare-contrast text structure will frequently use words like both, unlike, similarly, and in contrast. Let's take a look at our two articles. Read it in your mind while I read it out loud. This is our first article. Why are the oceans salty? For much of history, it was a mystery why the oceans were salty. Different cultures, assuming that the oceans began as freshwater and only later became salty, came up with their own explanations. The Vikings related a story to a sailor dropping a magical salt grinder to the bottom of the ocean. People in the Philippines told of a giant who carried sacks of salt from island to island, but then accidentally dropped them all into the sea. Other cultures had similar stories to explain the cause of the ocean saltiness. Scientists eventually figured out the truth. The stories were correct in one way. The amount of salt in the ocean has increased over time. Where did all the new salt come from? From the land. Most rocks contain salts, and over millions of years, the forces of wind, rain, and ice break down the rocks and release the salts. Rainfall carries the salts to rivers, and the rivers carry the salts into the oceans. As a result, the ocean is salty. First, we will look for evidence of structure. Which are the clues that will lead us to determine how the author is organizing the text? Then, we will also talk about the author's purpose of each article. So take another look at this first article and see if you can find any clue words or evidence of structure. Take a couple seconds to find the clues to help us determine the text structure of this article. Think about it, find them. Did you find them? Let's take a look and see if you had them. All right, we see mystery, why. Now we know why, the word why indicates something. Let's keep looking. We also see the word explanations. We also see to explain the cause, In the second paragraph, we see figured out, which helps us. And then at the very end of paragraph 2, we see as a result. Think about that. Which text structure do these clues help us? How do these clues help us to figure out which text structure the author's using here? Think about it. With all of those clues, can you determine the text structure of this article? Do you have an answer? What is it? If you said cause and effect, you are absolutely right. The author's purpose of this article is to tell why the oceans are salty. Right here, it tells us in this second paragraph why the oceans are salty. Let me put up our second story. Take a couple seconds to find the clues to help us determine the text structure of this article. Read this article on your own. The first one we did together. I'm going to let you read this article on your own. Go ahead. While you're reading, be looking for the clues to help you understand which text structure the author is using. Did you find the clues? You probably found the clue word but, also different. Another one is in contrast. And then it says the opposite. Some, other, a few, and then two things in common. Can you figure out, take a second to figure out, what's the text structure here? How is the author organizing his text here based on those clues that we just found? Did you figure it? With all of those clues, you can determine the text structure of this article. Do you have an answer? What is it? If you said compare and contrast, you are right. Great job on that. And the author's purpose of this article is to determine similarities and differences between oceans and seas and between types of seas. Comparing texts can help you understand their structures and purposes. Awesome job on that, guys. All right, keep reading this week, and I'll see you again soon on our online classroom. Bye, everybody.